go into the spirit realm that you will see it that way.
I see. Yeah, where do we, in a sense, go after we die out of 3D? Like the idea that the soul transitions from the three-dimensional paradigm. And what is the best way to explain in our language where the soul goes or can go?
It goes nowhere. In the classical sense, the mechanical sense, it goes nowhere. You can have an experience of feeling like you're somewhere else, experiencing like you're somewhere else, but that's an arbitrary, illusionary experience. To put it in simple terms, where does a television program go when you change the channel? The vibrations may still be there, the frequency may still be there, the program may still be playing, but you're on a different channel, so you see a different thing. It doesn't go anywhere because there's nowhere to go in its most fundamental response to that question. Everything is here and now. So everyone that has ever lived and ever died, everyone, everywhere, is right here, right now, but it is the frequencies that create a sense of separation so that they become invisible to you. But they're all right here.
So, and the soul itself, that's beyond the higher self. The next level up is the soul, or the soul is connected to the individual personality? How does that work?
The soul is connected to the individual personality and creates the higher mind, non-physically, and the physical mind to have the physical experience.
Okay. So you can never be separated from your soul, in a sense. It doesn't go anywhere different than you. It's always with you in whatever form you're in.
You are always it. It's not with you. You are it. You are the soul.
So when we wake up after we die, so to speak, does our life that we've had fade away like a dream?
No, not at first. You will usually, although there are some exceptions, but you will usually go through what is called life review, which is simply an assessment of what it is you learned, what it is you experienced, and how you can use it to make a decision as to what to do next. Now, you can allow it to fade eventually, if certain aspects of it no longer serve you, but it will always be with you and always be accessible if you so desire. It becomes a part of the greater you as an experience. That's what the spirit is. It's the experience that you retain. And so it becomes a part of you, and it's always there to access. Much in the same way that you may have learned something when you were a child, and you may not think about it all the time. It may fade away, but suddenly you may need to remember that particular experience and call upon something you learned from that experience for what you're going through in the present, in your present form. So it's always there. You may not always pay attention. That's your version of it fading away. But when you need to pay attention, the information is accessible. It's always there. It's always a part of you.
So how do our ego and our personality feel about this shift that happens where you're no longer, quote unquote, existing on Earth and you're simply a consciousness in spirit?
The question is relatively vague. What do you mean, how do you feel about it? You will feel whatever it is you choose to feel at that point. You will experience whatever it is you choose to experience at that point.
Well, for example, like most people before they die, or if they're in the process of dying, may struggle to stay alive in a sense.
Yes, but you are asking the question from the point of view of being already dead.
Right. So what happens to the ego and the personality when you're dead?
It becomes a part of you, but you're bigger than that. Again, similar to the idea I just explained. What happens to the part of you that is the child learning a lesson in childhood? What happens to it? It's still a part of you. You're just more than that now.
Is incarnation different for interdimensional beings than for human beings?
Human beings are interdimensional beings. Now, the experience of what type of incarnation, yes, of course, that's different, because it can be many different ways in which you can experience the concept of incarnation. But again, you're all interdimensional beings. So, what's the experience like?
I guess I was thinking more like Sasquatch or yourself. That's much more interdimensional than we experience.
Well, like I said, there are different ways to experience the concept of incarnation. So, the mechanism is the same for everyone. It's just a matter of a shift in frequency, a shift in perspective. And that makes the experience different depending upon how you're expressing the incarnation. What you are as an incarnated being changes the experience. But the mechanism is no different.
I see. We've also talked about the idea of life review after death.
Yes.
And are we shown like every detail and moment of our life, and then are we only shown the unresolved or the unrealized things?
Everything. Every single split second is there. And it's not that you are shown it, it's that you are aware of it. Because there's no more barriers. There's not space and time in the same way as an experience. Therefore, all the veils drop and you experience it. Everything that you have created, everything that you have experienced is there. And so you review it, you look at it, you absorb it, you learn from it, you move on. But remember, it doesn't take place in the same amount of time. So the life review can be experienced from your perspective in a split second.
So is that sort of like the idea of people saying, just before they died, they saw their life flash before them?
Yes, it's similar because they're very close to that moment. Now, as we said, once upon a time, the idea that everything is here and now is really what's happening. You choose a specific here and now, which has to do with that particular life and the relevance for that life experience. But the thing of it is, every single moment, in a sense, I'm just going to use this euphemism, is layered on top of every other moment. So you're experiencing everything at once because it's all right there. So you're seeing in more dimensions of what's right here and now when you go through life review, because it's not separated so much by time. So everything that's here and now, like a double, triple, quadruple, quintuple exposure, is all there, and that's why you get it all. Every single thing is recorded, so to speak, in the same place. That's why you experience every single second. You're seeing it more as a depth rather than stretched out linearly.
So that sort of explains the idea of if someone has committed atrocities, so to speak,
yes,
on Earth,
yes,
that when they experience life review, the shock of the depth of darkness will impact the being or the soul of...
It can, because you're experiencing things not only from your point of view, but from every point of view you have ever interacted with. Because again, that barrier drops. So there is less difference between you and anyone else.
Like, for example, you had talked about with Hitler that he literally had to be put on ice in a sense to deal with the intensity of the negativity of what had been promulgated as a result of his actions.
Yes.
Okay. So is the idea that if you live a good life and you bring a lot of happiness and joy and love into the world, that when you experience your life review, you will experience that more fully and also be able to balance that with the negative experiences that may have been generated by your behavior?
You know the law. What you put out is what you get back.
And then there's a type of processing that the consciousness goes through to absorb all of this information from a new perspective.
A type, yes. Not exactly the same kind of processing you may experience in linear space-time, but yes, a type of processing.
Okay. And like for animals, I know that question that comes up periodically about, do animals have souls, and do they?
Animals are souls. Remember, you have to, in a sense, stop thinking that a soul is something you have. A soul is something you are.
So is there like the animal oversoul, or
Absolutely.
there's the animal oversouls? Okay, and
there are cat oversouls, dog oversouls, any other animal oversoul, and there is the general collective animal oversoul.
And the reason that an animal may instinctively have certain kinds of behavior that give it a lot of pleasure is because, in a sense, they're channeling the animal oversoul of their species. Is that?
Well, that can be one way that they experience a certain kind of pleasure. Yes, it's not the only way.
Right. But do they actually go through a type of life review when they pass away?
Sort of. It's not experienced exactly in the same way, but it's similar enough that I suppose you could use it as an example.
So they would, let's say a dog would...
All the experiences that animal had in life, in a sense, are reviewed, but it doesn't come with the same kind of perspective. It's not used exactly in the same way.
And they independently incarnate, or they are also... it's necessary for another consciousness, such as a human, to collaborate in their incarnation?
Well, it depends on what's chosen. It can be either. It depends on the theme that is chosen.
Wow, so they're not really that much different from us. They just, in a sense, speak a different language, find pleasure in other behaviors that are not, quote unquote, human behaviors. And yes, they're equal to us in a certain way.
Yes. Again, the mechanisms are the same for everything.
Okay, and insects.
It's an animal. It's not a vegetable. It's not a mineral. It's an animal.
So I was just thinking of like bees, they have that hive mentality.
Well, so to speak. In actual fact, it's not really accurate to say it's a hive mentality. It's actually more of a hive empathy.
So they feel what the other bees are feeling?
Yes, that's more accurate.
Well, and is some ET civilizations actually express that idea also?
Yes, of course.
Because that's just another phenomenon of existence.
Yes.
A collective.
Yes.
With beings similar to oneself or of the same species.
Yes.
Okay, and so like a life review for a bee.
This may be difficult to explain, and so we would ask you to move on.
All right. Filled with milk and honey? No.
Not milk.
Okay. Does everyone have to go through a life review?
You don't have to, but in the afterlife, there's almost no reason not to. There can be some exceptions, but they are true exceptions for a variety of reasons we will not go into now. It's almost an automatic function, just because that's the point. Why have the life if you're not going to learn from the life?
Oh, it's so fascinating because we're doing so much connecting with animals and nature. It's just so fascinating to think of what a life review would be like from a completely different perspective, being a completely different creature.
We may touch on that at some other point.
Yes, I won't ask any more questions about it, but it is fascinating.
Yes.
Gives you more respect, I guess, in a sense, for their existence and what they are also doing.
It can.
How will the splitting prism of parallel realities appear from our perspective as the different pathways diverge? Will people who aren't aligned with us just start to sort of fade away and be further and further in the distance, or will they leave our perception altogether?
The question has answered itself. Yes. It will generally fade away in some way, shape, or form. and eventually you will no longer experience others that are no longer vibrationally compatible.
I see. And then the idea about a next incarnation, can you touch on that at all, about how those choices are made? Each individual personality, in a sense, that has its own choices about that. Is that how it works?
Again, from a linear perspective, the question makes sense when you say next, but everything already exists structurally. So it's more a matter of, if we can use this kind of an illustration for you. Imagine that your consciousness is above it all. Think of yourself for the moment as the oversoul. You have all of these extensions already. But let's just say for the moment, you decide to give a little bit of special attention to one over the others. And then in the next moment, you decide to give a little bit of special attention to a different extension that already exists. It's more like that, although that's not even an accurate description, because that's still coming from a linear perspective to some degree. But it's more about the idea of shifts in focus and patterns within the consciousness of a higher being, a higher level of yourself, that then creates the experience of a focus in a manner through the filter of space-time that appears to be the next focus. But next is only experienced from the level of the physical reality. It's not experienced from the level of the oversoul.
From that level, it's a refocusing. From this level, it's a linear experience.
That's closer to the truth, although again, that's not completely accurate, because we're using physical space-time terminology to describe this.
So how did reincarnations originally get this idea that, oh, you're going to pay back your karma of what you did in this lifetime, etc.? How far off is that from what actually happened?
Well, the idea is that you do have the ability to recognize when you may be out of alignment with yourself, out of balance. It's just that from a linear perspective, once you've bought into the idea that things have to happen one after the other, then obviously the concept of recognizing an imbalance and rebalancing yourself will automatically also fit that modality. You'll see it as something that happened in the past that needs to be balanced in the present, or perhaps if not, then balanced in the future. So the idea is that it's simply part of the overall experience of linear space-time to fragment and disconnect things and put them in a sequential way, and including the idea of being out of alignment and rebalancing yourself.
So I suppose if you have a strong enough conviction that you need to refocus your attention on a life that makes up for something that you did in a previous life.
But you didn't do it. You didn't do it. What I'm saying is, you have the linear perspective that it was you. But the idea is you are connecting to an experience of a coexisting, simultaneously existing being to aid and assist you in the theme you're exploring in this life. But the idea is that it simply got strung out in this linear idea of reincarnation and karmic balance over lifetimes, because you experience the idea of linear time and one thing happening after another. And if something doesn't get balanced in one lifetime, then you made the extrapolation that it must happen in another one of your lifetimes. But that's not the mechanical reality. It's only the way you have created the illusionary experience.
So it's actually more immediate, because I know a lot of people become concerned about justice.
Yes.
You know, oh, all the injustices that are experienced on Earth, and somewhere, someplace, somebody pays for that, or it gets balanced, or they have to correct. But the mechanism is actually just in the immediacy. What you put out is what you get back. Any repercussions from anything you do happen in the same quote unquote lifetime. And
well, so to speak. The idea doesn't mean that you have to see it happening in the lifetime, because as I said, there's life review. But you have to understand that the idea of physical and non-physical reality, in a sense, is the continuation of your life. Therefore, just because it happens, just because you may recognize the idea of how to align when you're non-physical, doesn't mean the alignment hasn't happened just because it didn't happen in the physical part of the life.
I see. So it's actually a continuation. You will balance that within yourself at some point in your existence.
Yes, because remember, all that is already is. And therefore, it in and of itself is the idea of balance. You can't, in a sense, be outside of it. You can't be outside of it. It'll all be in balance at some point, because all that is the very concept of everything is in balance.
Yeah. It's just sort of like the human version isn't the way it happens. It really is more just a holistic thing where any aspect of the self that's out of balance will seek to move towards balance.
Exactly.
And that is what the karma is.
Moving toward balance, yes. Aligning with that idea of moving toward balance.
Very interesting. So it's actually a lot kinder than perhaps we might imagine here on Earth, where things can get really dark. And
justice is not punishment. Justice is realization.
That's good. That's intelligent.
Yes.
So just looking a little at the human history and everything, when did the Anunnaki actually create the humans?
Homo sapien was generally genetically engineered somewhere around 350,000 years ago was the beginning of one of the programs, the major program. There were some minor experiments before that and some after, but the general idea of the beginning of that genetic program in earnest was about 350,000 years ago.
And so one question that came up was, how did souls know a new vehicle for incarnation had been created? Because that's what that was, a new vehicle.
Well, so to speak, yes. But remember, in the soul's perspective, everything exists here and now. Therefore, how did they know? All they had to do was be of the vibration that required the experience of a vehicle. And they would be drawn to a number of selections and choose what would be relevant for the theme they were going to explore.
So that's kind of where the whole hybridization, evolution of human consciousness fits in.
In a sense. But please do remember, when we use the term in your language, vehicle, we're not necessarily referring to the physical body, because a soul doesn't enter a physical body. The physical body is a projection of the soul. It's in the soul. The soul is not in the body's in the soul. You are a soul. So the idea of a vehicle is not meant as an empty physical shell. It's simply meant as a way of experiencing yourself.
And then with the hybridization program, consciousness that is interested in evolving through that process will be attracted to that vibration, become aware of the existence of that methodology in a sense, and participate.
Yes. You always are attracted to whatever you are the frequency of. It's made known to you automatically.
Who were the first physical ET beings to achieve space travel, or is that even a question?
We do not know that.
Are you all aware of how far into space exploration has occurred? Because this is our neighborhood, right? You're part of our neighborhood.
Well, no, I'm not. I can visit your neighborhood by shifting my frequency, but I live in a parallel reality. That's my neighborhood. If you want to make the separation between parallel realities a real separation vibrationally, then you have to understand that we do come from a different neighborhood. If you want to include many different levels of parallel realities, then yes, that can be a bigger neighborhood.
Okay. And then the idea of exploration into deep space, so to speak, because we're seeing this from a certain vantage point in the Milky Way and everything.
All right. Well, if you're talking about your neighborhood in terms of your physical universe experience, you're asking the question, how much of that universe has been explored?
By beings capable of exploring it.
We don't know. The universe is a big place. We're not aware of every being that may exist within even your physical universe.
Right. And so for your civilization, how far into space, in a sense? Have you gone to the furthest reaches of the universe or anything like that?
No. We have explored, I suppose perhaps if you want to put it in a percentage point, about 15% of the galaxy.
Of the galaxy? That's just the galaxy. Wow.
Yes. And there are other galaxies we have visited from time to time, but then the exploration of those galaxies is different depending on the galaxy, but probably doesn't range more than about 0.5 to 1% of the exploration of those other galaxies, because we still have so much we don't know about the galaxy that we're exploring.
Right. And so, like the Andromeda galaxy.
Yes.
That one is in our attention. We're aware of it.
Yes.
And there are beings from that galaxy that are connecting to us.
Yes. And they don't represent more than about 1% of that galaxy.
Wow. Boy, the universe is a busy place.
And a big one. If you're going to buy into the illusion of distance.
Distance, right. So for you, like if you have a system that you want to explore, do you just say, oh, I'd like to go over there where that star is? Or is it a little more?
Well, we have a little bit more information because, again, we can see into multiple dimensions, and it gives us a general pathway to take for our intention of creating first contact with different civilizations. Now, there are many beings within our civilization and other civilizations that are, for lack of a better term, pure explorers. And therefore, they will just simply go where they feel like going and see what they find.
Sounds very Star Trek-y.
In a sense, remember that many creators do pick up on the realities that they may not be aware of and interpret them in their stories.
I know, it's really fascinating. You said there was an earlier version of Sasani beings that interacted with ancient humans on Earth.
Yes, but there wasn't much interaction.
Yeah, because the question was, why didn't the humans go into psychic shock from those interactions?
Because only the few humans that were capable of allowing themselves to experience a certain frequency were capable of interacting to any degree with the early Sasani beings that visited your world. And that interaction was relatively limited. Mostly it was just simply the awareness of the existence of those beings from a distance and what they were doing from a distance. There were a few individuals that had a stronger interaction, but they were rare.
So even when the Earth was in earlier stages, even if people had not achieved vibrational levels where they could fully comprehend what was going on,
yes,
there were always a few that had a very high vibrational state that then could access other realities and other beings.
Yes, but also please do remember there's another mechanism involved in this as well. And that is, for a limited amount of time, beings from our society that may visit your world can create a buffer zone around themselves vibrationally where they're not necessarily expressing all of their energy. In much the same way that we limit the amount of information we can share with all of you if certain bits of information are simply not appropriate to share at this time. That can be done vibrationally as well to a certain degree.
So like from the collective experience of all these different civilizations, are very many civilizations aware of your existence?
The
your
civilizations that
society.
are aware of our existence are those that exist within the Interstellar Alliance and a few others beyond that.
And how many civilizations are part of the Interstellar Alliance?
554.
So, okay, so it's sort of like it's in this general neighborhood, the Interstellar Alliance, since we will eventually become part of that. And there
If you
are
wish, yes.
yeah, and a large number of those, like over 500 civilizations, are aware of the Sassani. Do they see you as a certain kind of specialists, as just simply first contact specialists, or is it that your way of being able to see the mechanisms of how things work behind the scenes, so to speak, like in the diagram that you made, does that set you apart as a civilization?
The only way we can really answer that is to say that there are different civilizations that see us in different ways.
Okay. Because you do seem to come through with a most unique understanding, that's been delivered to this planet. And
The core,
wonderful.
the core of our understanding, in some sense, though it can be expressed differently, and maybe not to the same degree, or sometimes even more so than we express it, is to some degree a prerequisite for being part of the Interstellar Alliance.
So as beings move to a higher vibrational state, like what percentage of the ETs that are interacting with Earth are of such a high vibration that they would comprehend it, but then there's certainly a percentage that we may interact with that don't see the picture.
The percentage of extraterrestrial beings that are more directly interacting with Earth at this time comprise about 90% of the beings interacting with Earth from elsewhere.
Okay. Why do so many spaceships look like they're spinning when they fly?
Because some of them are.
So that's one of the ways that they generate their power source?
Yes, it doesn't mean that the internal cabin is spinning. It may just be the outer shell that is spinning.
Do spaceships sometimes leave remnants of fuel remnants on Earth if they land here, or they...
Well, some spaceships now and then that have either landed and or, as you say, crashed, have certainly left components that can be looked at or identified as quote-unquote fuel for those that use certain elements as fuel, to use that term loosely. But in certain craft, like our own, you would not find any fuel of any kind that you would be able to recognize as such.
Okay. And what percentage of the beings in our neighborhood, basically, that actually still eat? Is this something that goes away, the whole thing of eating?
No, not for everyone.
Like, do the Pleiadians still eat, or the...
They do. Not a lot, but they do.
So it's more when you're moving from fourth to fifth density, is that when the...
Well, fifth density is non-physical, so of course you don't eat in non-physical reality.
So the closer you are to non-physical reality, the less likely would be that you would consume.
The less likely, yes. It doesn't mean it's completely gone for every civilization, because again, it depends on the theme that they're exploring and what it is they are consuming and how they are consuming it.
So we might not be able to go to lunch with an Essassani being, but we...
Well, you can, but we just simply won't order anything off the menu.
But a Pleiadian can join us. I get it. Okay. You mentioned earlier that the Mayan people came to the planet via spacecraft. Is that correct?
The ancient versions of them, yes.
So were they also part of the Homo sapien creation, and they were off planet, or these were
No.
that...
There are different humanoid beings that exist elsewhere because of the concept of panspermia, which is that genetic material is delivered to different planets in different sectors by meteors and asteroids and comets that contain already the structure of what general forms of life may develop depending upon the environment of the planet that they land on. So there are many humanoid species that do exist, and sometimes these things exist in clusters within the galaxy. But there are many non-humanoid species as well.
So they were actually another species, the Mayan.
Yes.
And are there a significant number of beings on our planet? Well, which planet Earth, but to say that on the planet Earth that we're communicating on right now, are there a percentage that are not a result of the hybridization that the Anunnaki created?
Are you asking if you have visitors from elsewhere?
Well, since the Mayan were here and they were living here, no one would have known that they were another species of human, correct?
Yes.
So is the same thing true now? There are other species of humans that are here that were not a direct result of the Anunnakis?
There are, but we're not allowed to mention who they are. But they're not many.
Not many. Mostly everybody here at this point is
Mostly
a descendant of that.
And of course, remember that the descendants of the original Mayab people have also mixed with actual humans. So there are very few original bloodlines that remain from the original Mayab people that arrived on your planet as an external species.
So as the descendants of program, what would you say is one of the most positive benefits we received from the inclusion of the Anunnaki genetics?
You'll find that out when you allow all of the different markers that have been shut down to reopen. You will start experiencing your reality in a very different way. One of the reasons why you explore space itself, in a sense, is a result of that.
That's nice to know there's positive things. Well, there's many positive things in a sense that came from all that. So
Yes, but it's still unfolding.
yes. Okay, because we haven't really fully embraced that their genetic markers, or we haven't opened those markers yet. So
No, not fully.
Receive the gifts that are there.
Yes. So exploring space, in some sense, is a result of that. The idea of the Sasquatch don't really focus that way. They explore other dimensions, but not in the way that you choose to explore space.
Is one of the ways we may access more of our genetic capabilities through our own exploration of genetic alteration and this whole area that's happening on our planet now, where
Yes, of course.
So it's really a very positive thing, but it can be used either way.
Anything can be positive or negative depending upon how it is used, yes.
Yes. Okay. Go on to some other areas. Does a person exist in all realities, or maybe we already covered this, that the unique me that I am in this reality, each version of me also has its own unique me that it's experiencing?
Well, no, of course not. Because there are parallel realities that don't need a version of you.
Oh, I meant as far as a lot of times people are trying to grasp the idea that there are parallel versions of themselves, but it's not really them. It may be from an oversoul level, but it's not them from a personality or experiential level.
All right, well, look at it this way. You never assume if you have an identical twin that they are going to have the same experience that you do, even though there might be a lot of similarity.
Right.
So you might as well think of parallel reality versions as identical twins.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay.
They're having their own experience. no matter how much they may look like you physically.
Okay. Our science shows that space is expanding and that all the different galaxy clusters are drifting apart from each other over time.
Yes.
What is the spiritual reflective meaning of this, and does this have something to do with the splitting of the parallel realities?
Not so much the idea of the splitting of the parallel realities, but it has to do exactly with the word that you used, expansion. It's about expanding. It's about growing. It's about experiencing from all the different possible points of view and perspectives and relationships that can be formed with a basic structure that never changes. So the very nature of existence is to be the structure that never changes, and at the same time to constantly and infinitely expand its experiences of the structure that never changes.
It's really something.
It is something. It is, in fact, many somethings.
How does the formula help us have clearer communication with our higher self and our spirit guides?
Well, when you act on your passion, you raise your vibration. When you raise your vibration, you become a better receiver or better antenna for higher frequency energy, and therefore communications from higher frequency realms, such as spirit guides and other dimensions, can be more clearly received in whatever way they need to be received, more often than not, through more synchronicity, more awareness of the synchronicity around you. But it makes you a more sensitive antenna to act on your passion, which is the primary idea of the formula.
And then sort of the idea that the permission slips that work for each person are something to be cherished and enjoyed because they help you move into the higher frequency states.
Yes, why not?
Right. So there's no specific permission slip to have clearer communication. It's all very unique and designed specifically for your consciousness and what you're attracted to.
Yes, if you want to call the formula a permission slip, you could say that that's permission slip 0. But in general, because that's really representative of the structure of existence, but all the permission slips beyond that are up to you.
Oh, I know someone asked this question about, is there like a 911 for spacecraft? Because we've heard that there's been spaceships that have crashed on Earth and everything.
Yes.
And it's kind of surprising that anything would crash like that. But
Well, it depends upon the level of technology. You know, the universe still, no matter how advanced a being may be in your perspective, well, I'm just going to put it in the way that most humans put it. Shit happens. You can't necessarily cover everything. And therefore, there are some levels of technology that are susceptible to what you typically might call an accident. But of course, there are beings that also understand that there's no such thing as an accident. And that the beginning of your awareness, in some sense, in the modern age, of the existence of extraterrestrials happened because of a crash. So it serves a purpose, and in that sense isn't an accident, yet at the same time, things happen.
so like the idea that of the 911 thing, what can you tell us about that? Is there...
Each civilization may have its own way of contacting others, and of course for us, we're telepathically bonded. So therefore, anything that might seem to be amiss is instantly understood by those that need to understand it.
Has a Sasani craft ever crashed?
On Earth, no. In our early experimentations with the idea of star travel, yes. But that was thousands of years ago.
Okay, so shifting over to sort of the human condition,
Yeah.
We are made of love in that sense. We've been told
It's a
that.
euphemism. Yes, it's a euphemism, simply meaning the ultimate vibration of existence is what you translate as unconditional love.
So how is that possible that there's psychopaths and all kinds of very...
Because the love is unconditional. You can choose whatever limitations you wish to impose upon yourself to learn a certain thing, or you can allow yourself to simply fall under the auspices of the cycle of any given reality that may contain that probability. It's unconditional. That's what it means. You can experience any number of things, including not being aware that you are unconditionally loved and supported, which can lead to any number of negative kinds of experiences. But again, remember, you're ultimately indestructible. People may not know they have the ability to be expressing the idea of love in a certain loving way. They may be attempting to express the idea of connection and love, but they may never have been taught, because of the limitations of the reality, of how to do that in a positive way. So when they express themselves, all they've learned about how to connect is through negative methodologies. So it's about the imposition of a framework on the idea that you are able to experience anything depending upon the circumstances of any given location or situation, because you are supported and loved unconditionally. There's no fudging the idea of unconditional.
That really is the most amazing part of it, is that you choose. You have the ability to choose. You have free will in that sense.
That is why we say your greatest power is the freedom to choose.
Right, because you're so fully empowered, and yes, yet you can be on a planet that expresses great darkness.
Yes, absolutely. And when we say the freedom to choose, it doesn't mean that those choices are always conscious. Because if you've created a reality in which you have an unconscious mind, then some of your choices can come from beliefs you may not be aware of.
Oh, so that's a big key here, is the idea of the unconscious mind.
Yes.
That we compartmentalize
Yes.
levels of our consciousness to have a focused experience here.
Yes.
And part of our discovery process is to see what we harbor in our unconscious.
Yes. You have hidden things from yourself, so you have something to discover.
It's fascinating.
And it gives you a new perspective. And that's how creation grows. New perspectives.
So as part of that process, what is meant by learning to do more with less?
Well, when you really understand how simple the structure is, which is, again, what the formula is based on, it's just an instruction manual that has very few instructions. If you follow those few instructions very precisely, then you don't have to do anything else to allow the life to automatically work to your advantage. You will actually experience more that synchronicity can bring you when you are actually operating with less instructions, just the instructions that are necessary. So operating with less brings you more. Whereas if you clutter it up with extra instructions that aren't necessary, then you may be giving yourself more instructions to follow, which clutters everything up, which means you pay less attention to the things you can be getting, and you experience less getting of them.
So that's really the beauty of the way our entire existence is structured. Everything is incredibly simple.
Yes.
In terms of how to move about this experience. The simpler you keep it, the more the rest is taken care of by the other mechanisms that exist.
Yes, and sometimes we have to, depending on the civilization we're working with, we may have to create what seems to be a little bit more complexity, in the sense of, well, let's take this idea and break it into two ideas because it's easier for that civilization to understand. So that's not really adding real complexity, it's just adding more explanation.
And when you're functioning at a very high level of consciousness, you feel the incredible level of support that the reality actually always presents to you. That's your natural state, to feel absolutely, completely supported, effortlessly existing.
And the higher the frequency, the more obvious that becomes, because you're seeing more of existence.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Chris from Nevada City, California, and I was wondering if you could tell us if there are any significant undiscovered planets in our solar system. And if so, when might humanity start to become more aware of them? Thank you.
Yes, there are, but they have extremely elliptical orbits that are outside the plane of the ecliptic, and therefore they are very hard to see. So you have to look almost knowing where to look in order to see them, but you'll find them eventually. There are 3 more. The idea is that they will usually all be found within the next 50 of your years, as we read your energy now.
Hi, Bashar.
Good day. Good day.
This is amazing. Thank you for this opportunity.
It is our passion and our pleasure.
Yes, I know. I actually wanted to talk to you about several things. Actually, just about my life.
Yes.
It's a bit emotional.
Oh, all right.
So 2 months back, something really nasty happened, and it had a big influence on my family, on me.
Yes.
And I discovered a whole lot of things. So I realized that on a daily basis, I actually go from density to density, and it all has to do with the way I look at things.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, of course, but it was not so clear to me that it's simply so easy.
Yes.
So I said to myself, okay, you are part of this. You also created this. So what's the present? What's the present this is bringing you? And then everything shifted, and inside me, everything shifted. So my sadness, it was gone. I was back in my heart. But then I said, okay, this is probably what Bashar is always talking about going to another earth, parallel realities, and things. And then I said, okay, but if I'm on another earth, why does my outer reality still stays the same? But
it's not the same. It's not the same.
Okay. But when it's the same in my head then probably. And that's all it is.
Yes.
So when I come into this room, in my head, I know there are several things in this room.
Yes.
And that's why it stays the same. So when I can bring myself to the belief that...
One moment.
Yeah.
There is a joke that exists on your planet that is a perfect illustration of this idea. The joke is, someone says, I came home one day to find that every single thing in my house had been stolen and replaced with an exactly identical copy. Do you understand? It may look the same, but it's not the same.
Yeah. This is so amazing, because I have apparently this little voice in my head that tells me the same thing, but I'm not allowing myself to believe my inner knowing.
Yes. Well, there you go. You've solved your issue.
Yeah.
Now all you have to do is find the belief system that keeps you from knowing what you say you do in fact know.
It seems that I'm not allowing it, because Why
not? Yes.
Well, I don't know.
Well, yes, you do. Because you just have to ask the right question of yourself. And that question usually is, if I allowed myself to know this is true, what am I afraid of?
What am I afraid of?
Yes. If you allowed yourself to know these things, what are you afraid will happen? Are you afraid you'll be thought of as crazy? Are you afraid you will lose people in your life?
I think that I might be holding on to my childhood, because I wanted to ask you what is the highest perspective that my parents, and then especially my mother and I, chose to be in each other's life this lifetime, because I think this is a huge part of everything in my life.
Yes, well, the question is, what would you otherwise not have learned had you not been in each other's lives?
But can it be that simple that what she did was reject me in every way? But I didn't realize that I was rejecting myself.
Well, there you go. That's one lesson you have learned because of the situation that you agreed to participate in.
But that's what we do as humans.
No, that's what you do when you learn to do those things. It is not natural to humans to be that way. It's a learned experience down through the generations. It's not done just because you're human.
Oh, but maybe I didn't express myself. How can wait, where was I?
The idea that you are talking about is something that certainly has become a habit in human society. What I'm saying is it's not your natural state to reject each other.
No, but I have been canceling out this natural state since my childhood. That's the truth. Yes.
So you gave yourself something to change, something to transform, something to learn how to transform. Most of you don't understand this. You give yourself certain experiences of darkness so you can learn to transform the darkness into light, because there are much bigger things coming up in the future that you will have to have had the practice transforming those personal things in order to be able to transform larger collective things in the future.
And is this because I'm holding on to childhood stuff that I'm afraid of my power? Because I think that we humans have a whole lot of power.
Of course you do. You're creating your reality experience. You have to have power to do that. But let me ask you a question. If you understand that you're shifting through different parallel realities and that you are truly a different person every moment, is the childhood you're referring to actually still your childhood?
No, but it is a good box of awareness for me.
Take what works from it and recreate that, but you don't have to take all of it if all of it doesn't work for the person you are now.
Yeah.
You get to decide.
Yeah, I can decide. I can choose. I want two other things, if I may.
Quickly.
Yes. Cats can come back. That's my experience. One of my cats died, and she came back. It's not exactly.
No, she didn't come back.
But it's a part of her.
The energy connection may be very similar, but it's not the same cat.
It's not the same cat. She's not the same, but there were different things. It's a whole story, and we don't really
I understand.
have time.
But the cat that you have is reflecting certain similar vibrational frequencies to your other cat for a variety of purposes. One of which would be to recognize that that frequency is back in your life. That's why you think it's the same cat, but it's the same frequency.
Yeah, okay. And then the guidance from our body is something that is really fascinating.
Yes.
So when I'm not willing to stand in my power, I have trouble with my feet and my legs. Would you agree?
Yes.
So really, that's simple.
It is. It's one of the things we have been saying for 38 years on your planet. It's simpler than you think. Thank you for your recognition.
Yeah, and it's up to me to really accept it and live it.
It is.
That's what I'm here to do.
It's not up to anyone else.
Oh, that's so great, so great, so great. Okay, and when I feel, very last question, when I feel tension in my body, it can be just as simple as a part of me that is saying, hey, you're leaving yourself again. Go back to your heart.
Yes, you can use it as a guiding mechanism if the tension you're referring to seems to be out of place or out of alignment with who you prefer to be. Yes.
This is so amazing. So I am really right on. Oh, great.
Thank you.
This is amazing. Thank you, Bashar. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Bye-bye.
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 Hello, Bashar. My name is Matias and I'm from Argentina. My question is, recently I've been dreaming about another house. Another life, I feel. Living in a house I don't recognize, but in some way I do recognize. Going into a supermarket and buying things for a travel with friends I don't know, but somehow I know that they exist. And today I felt how lonely and sad that counterpart feels. What is this? How does this relate to my actual experience, and how can I best help and be helped by the counterparts that I'm connected to? Thank you.
As you expand your consciousness, many of you will start to perceive parallel versions of yourselves in other realities. The ones that you may feel need help, need assistance, you can become their mentors. You can send them positive energy. You can inspire them by sending different kinds of thoughts or examples of your own life along the energetic connection you may have to them. And therefore, it may help them brighten their own reality up. For those you feel you can learn something from, you can download information and experience along those energetic connections that you all make to a variety of versions of yourselves in different parallel realities. But being more aware and experiencing more viscerally the different parallel realities is one of the symptoms, shall we say, of the expansion of consciousness at this time.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
It is wonderful to be here with you today. Thank you so much.
And thank you as well for the co-creation.
I have two topics that I would like to touch upon today. And the first one being the inner child.
Yes.
During the months of COVID, I did lots of deep dives into my own inner child work, read lots of books, listened to lots of people. This past March, during your transmission, you touched upon childhood trauma and the inner child. And after that, I needed to put all my work away. I needed to reevaluate, reassess. So my questions to you today are not about recreating childhood trauma in the present moment. It's about the relationship that I feel that I formed speaking to my inner child through dialogue, whether written, verbal, or mental.
Yes.
So when I would feel emotion, I would recognize whatever I recognized, and then I would turn my attention inward and have a dialogue with what I perceive to be that little girl within me.
All right.
So my questions for you today are, who is it that I am really speaking to? What am I actually doing when I am in this practice? And why does it feel so good to acknowledge her insecurities or her fears?
Because you can't invalidate any portion of your own consciousness. She is a portion of your consciousness. In the same way, to use a crude analogy, that the child you were in kindergarten is still a piece of you, even though you have grown into an adult. You don't necessarily think like her anymore. You don't act like her anymore, at least not all the time. But the idea is that you have gone beyond her, but you still contain her. So you're speaking to another aspect of your own consciousness, and because you acknowledge it, because you support it, because you listen to it, because you dialogue with that aspect of your being and don't invalidate it, it allows you to operate more as a whole person between all of the different aspects or portions or reflections that exist within you. One phrase we have for this idea is you're experiencing a healthy multiple personality order by doing this.
Okay.
Does that help?
It does help. So this is a good service that I'm offering myself and or my clients by doing this practice of turning my attention inward and dialoguing with an aspect of myself.
Yes, if it is your passion to do it that way, then it's absolutely what you need to be doing.
Okay. And what about these experts who talk about reclaiming our childhood? What would you say to that?
Well, it depends on what they mean by that phrase.
So when it comes to inner child work,
Yeah.
it is going back, revisiting,
Yes.
and reclaiming parts of the childhood that we did not have, that we were missing, and then reparenting ourselves.
That's fine. Whether they know it or not, it's a reference to the idea that as you change yourself, you actually have a different past and therefore a different childhood. So in other words, you can actually make a connection to the idea of a different child within you as the new personality you are now. And that's one version of reclaiming your childhood, creating the version that would work for the person you are now, that would grow into the person you have become now. So different people may mean different things by that phrase, and we can't necessarily attest to the idea that they all think the way we have just described, but nevertheless, that's one way of looking at it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Bashar, for answering my questions, and thank you for this beautiful co-creation.
Thank you for asking them. Good day.
Good day.
Hi Bashar, this is Rokas from Lithuania. I'd like to ask you, when we are going to go through the life review, if we choose to do that after death, will we review the history that we remember at the moment of dying, or will we review all the different histories that we have gone through and shifted through our lifetime?
Whatever is relevant for the theme you were exploring. It might be what appears to be a single history. It might be a multitude of them. Whatever is relevant for the theme you are exploring and what will advise you best and inform you best for the choices that you will next make.
Hey there. Hey, Bashar.
Good day. Good day.
First of all, it's an honor to meet you. Thank you and Daryl for doing all the work that you are doing.
Our passion and our pleasure.
I have a few topics, so let's just dive right into it. First, I want to ask you questions about, more about yourself and the Sasani.
Yes.
I know that you followed in the footsteps of your father, right, to become a contact specialist.
Yes.
What drove you to do that, and what other sort of career paths or life paths are available on your planet?
Well, many. I am also a sculptor. That's part of my passion, expression. An explorer in general, in pure form. That's also part of my passion. And there are many other kinds of artistic or exploratory endeavors or encounters that can be had. Some people are directly, literally, living among other civilizations that are not our own to learn from them in a variety of ways. In the same way that you might visit a different country and live among the people there to pick up on and understand more clearly their ways of doing things, their expression of creation. There are many things that we can do.
Gotcha. So it's all really driven by sort of whatever is exciting, whatever is creative.
Whatever is the key frequency of our being at any given moment, yes.
Now, you've channeled for over 30 Earth years through Daryl, and what's been your experience of that passage of time? Is it the same length, or is it more sort of, compressed?
It's much more compressed. A conversation we may have with you today and a conversation we may have with you a year from now in your time may actually, from our perspective, be back to back.
Mm.
It just depends on what is necessary for our understanding of the content of the conversation. Sometimes there may be a need to understand that time has passed in your experience. Sometimes there may be no need for that at all.
Interesting. Okay. And then how many other, contact specialists are in contact with people on Earth right now?
It fluctuates, but the average is around 150 from our civilization.
Oh, wow. And then there's others from the IL and other civilizations as well.
Yes.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay, so on your planet, you had the Shakana experience, right?
Yes.
And before that experience, what was the civilization like? Like, for example, did you have money? Like, what was life like?
We've never really had money. We had much more of a head start evolutionarily than you have. But the idea is that we still had the experience of negativity. We still had some experience of disease and separation and so on and so forth. But we got to a point where the scales were tipped by the majority of the energy focusing in a more positive direction, which then brought about the reflection of the Shakana experience for all, who at least were open and willing to experience it that way. Those that did not, those that had another path, instantly disappeared from our civilization.
When you say instantly disappeared, what do you mean by that?
They shifted to another reality where we could no longer perceive them.
I see. Gotcha. Fascinating. Okay. Well, I guess on that thread, let's talk about the Earth's transition that we're in right now. So it's really exciting to hear there's going to be more crafts and things like that.
Yes.
Are there any particular places you'd recommend people gather or go to?
Wherever you are attracted to, although we have already said that Joshua Tree area is very important energetically as a vortex that has to do with the crossing and passage of many different civilizations, or let's just say it's a major traffic line.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so what about sort of the role of technology on Earth? So right now we have tools like this that allow us to create sort of a shared connection and empathy, but we have also other technology that creates more separation.
Yes.
So is it better for us to use these tools as sort of a stepping stone to build that ability for intuitive connection? Or is it better just drop whole technology and just focus on those more intuitive?
Different people will do it in different ways. There's no one right way to do it. Different people will do it in different ways. Depends on how they relate to the idea.
Gotcha. Okay. And then we're also dealing with climate change. And you mentioned previously that spreading particles of gold is sort of one method. Why is that something that would actually help?
Because it reflects the idea of sunlight back out into space and lowers the temperature of the planet.
Gotcha.
And it's also inert and lasts essentially forever. It doesn't decay.
That makes sense. And so is that the same reason that the Anu people originally came to Earth?
Yes.
Were they also dealing with that sort of similar style of climate change?
Even worse.
Interesting. Okay, so another topic, parallel incarnation. So you've shared that there are souls and then oversouls and so on.
Yes.
But at the same time, we have the ability to connect to any sort of parallel incarnation that's ever been in existence.
That is relevant for you to connect to, not anything.
Oh, interesting.
If it's not relevant, you won't connect to it, because why should you if it's not relevant?
Yeah. And so do you have like a limited number of souls as a part of your own oversoul?
Well, the entire population of our planet is much lower than yours. On average, it remains relatively stable, give or take, around 300 million.
Okay.
So in a sense, we generally, with a few exceptions for a variety of reasons, sort of all relate to a single oversoul for our civilization.
And so for humans, is it similar? Is it more like 7 per oversoul, then eventually you get the human oversoul?
The idea of the 7 billion people on your planet is generally representative, even though this also fluctuates, of between about 300 to 500,000 oversouls.
Interesting. Okay. And now, let's say
that's not evenly divided.
Yeah.
You can't just say, well, it's X per oversoul. It constantly fluctuates, but that's the average.
Now, you've also shared in the past that there are these parallel incarnation charts, right, that tell you
the pin charts. Yes,
the pin charts. So does that mean that one soul, or rather one oversoul, has multiple incarnations at different timelines?
Yes. Usually that's the case. Some pin charts may be adventurous enough to go into more than one oversoul, but generally that's not the case.
Okay, gotcha. Let's talk about the formula. So I know you've shared a lot about this. And you may have already shared this particular aspect of it, but one question that I've had is, sometimes it's hard to tell if there is an excitement, if there's other work that needs to be done that may not be as exciting, right?
Then you are either making it not exciting or it really isn't your way. There's always another way. If the work really needs to be done, there's always an exciting way. If it really isn't part of your excitement, then that work may not need to be done and something else may take its place. So again, the first thing to always check is, am I dampening the excitement because of my belief systems? Once you've cleared that through yourself and you realize you're not the one preventing yourself from being excited because you might be doing it in a way that is not exciting for you, you might have certain beliefs about what would happen if you did go forward, and so on and so forth. Once you clear all that out of the way, if the excitement is naturally waning, then that's synchronicity telling you go in another direction. Go in the exciting direction, even if it looks like it's not connected. What is most passionate for you at this moment tells you it's connected, even if it doesn't look like it could be connected on the surface. It's the thread of excitement that tells you it's connected.
Gotcha. Okay. Then let's talk about the 5 laws. So you shared that everything is in the here and now, and that the past actually extends from the now.
Yes.
So you've also shared that it's possible to technically change the past that you're connected to.
Well,
does that mean that
it happens automatically?
Yeah. Okay. So does that mean that if somebody had a traumatic experience and they believe that they never did, or are they now connecting to another version of themselves that never did? And if so, is that a way of bypassing that sort of experience?
Well, yes, in a sense. But the thing of it is it can't be used, in a sense, as a denial mechanism. It actually has to be truly an understanding that you are truly a different person and that the so-called other past has nothing to do with who you are now.
Mm-hmm.
It can't just be used as a denial or a glossing over mechanism. Oh, well, I'm different, so now I have to pay attention to the fact that I'm still creating all these negative beliefs based on the idea of an experience that happened in childhood. Can't be that. Can't ignore what you're creating in the moment. But if you're truly changing, this is what we often refer to as the 13th step. You really have a deep experiential understanding that you are a new person. And many times when you really understand and experience that you are a new person, though there may be some reasons to still refer to the past belonging to the other person that quote unquote you used to be, very often when you really are a new person, there's nothing to remember because it doesn't relate to you anymore.
That's gonna be my next question. So if you are truly that new person, you don't even remember being that old person.
In many cases, correct.
And so in a way, as you're growing, you may not even be aware that you're growing.
Well, you'll be aware in some sense, but it may not be that way.
Hmm.
You'll always have some sense of measure of change, but it may not be that particular technique that you use.
Interesting. Okay. That's very fascinating. And then my last question is, when folks are doing meditation, when they're doing something like Vipassana, we're able to get into these more expanded states of being.
Yes.
What exactly is that? And then,
what do you mean, what exactly is that? You're aligning with more of yourselves, more of the parallel realities, more of creation. You're expanding your consciousness to be more aware of the connections you already have. It's a meditation technique. It's a permission slip like anything else. Some people will find it valuable and some people will find other things.
Gotcha. Awesome.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good day.
Good day.